Guy was kind of a quack.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, buddy.
Yeah.
Once they start talking about toxins, we're cleansing you of toxins. I'm like, oh.
Again, see, that's a narrative.
Yeah.
It's possible, but it's not proven.
Right.
It's just a possible story you tell yourself.
Yeah, but that term, toxins,
Right.
is so, that is like, there's certain things that people say where you're dealing with woo. Oh, this is some woo-woo bullshit here. And toxins is one of them. Cleansing and toxins. I'm going on a cleanse. And I'm getting the toxins out of my system.
Dude, scientists are just as guilty of woo as every other guy.
You think so?
Oh yeah, big time.
In what way?
Oh my God, man! Like there's scientists, and then there's philosophers of science.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much woo-woo in science. Even the most popular guys have woo-woo. They just never studied the philosophy of science, so they don't really understand what they're saying per se.
Like, give me an example of woo-woo in science.
I'll give you a great example.
Okay.
There's this guy named Isaac Newton. Okay.
I heard of that dude.
Yeah, and you're asking him, hey, Isaac, why don't I fall off the face of the earth? And he's going to be like, well, Joe, there's this force of gravity pulling you down to the earth. The earth has a greater mass than you, therefore there's this force pulling you down. We call it gravity. And then some guy comes around, his name is Zahabi, and he tells you, no, Joe, don't listen to that guy. I have another theory, way more, it's truer than his. I believe there are gremlins pulling you down to the earth. They have lassos, these infinitely long lassos. And every time you're falling off the earth, they pull you. Every time you jump up and down on the earth, they pull you back down to the earth. You don't see these gremlins, they're invisible, but that's what's pulling you down to the earth. Now, how do you know who's right and who's wrong? Who's telling you the truth, me or Isaac?
Well, Isaac lived a long time ago before they actually had provable studies that could show you why gravity works.
Name me one of those studies.
Well, I'm not a scientist.
Well, let me break it to you this way. No scientist has a study to prove us that gravity works.
Really?
That's the whole thing. That's what's scary about
But
how we talk about the universe.
But they
around us.
understand that gravity is in relation to the size and mass of objects. So the moon is smaller, therefore it has 1/6 Earth's gravity because it's 1/4 the size of the Earth. There's a standard formula they can follow.
There's a correlation. Now, my theory of gremlins, which obviously I don't believe in, right? I'm using mythological language to make it really simple. Don't somebody misquote me that I believe in.
Frost Hobby believes in gremlins. He doesn't believe in gravity. He's a gravity denier.
Exactly. Well, there's less mass there's less atoms. The moon has less atoms, therefore less gremlins, less of them pulling you. My gremlin theory correlates with the gravity theory exactly. But I'm using a mythical language just to point out that every type of force we're talking about is an inference. It's something we project out there. We don't actually see gravity. And later on, Einstein debunked gravity, right?
What do you mean by he debunked gravity?
It. Isaac was totally wrong. Isaac's explanation of why you don't fall off the earth was totally wrong.
Well, what did Einstein do to debunk it?
Einstein taught us that a new theory, a new hypothesis, that gravity is a pushing force, not a pulling force. See, Isaac Newton, he debunked Aristotle. First, we used to believe what Aristotle used to say. Aristotle used to say, look, this thing has a natural place. It has to be stuck to the earth. That's its natural place. The force is within that one thing. That's why it doesn't fall off the earth. So when Aristotle saw a bird fly, he said, look, it has levity. Its natural state is to be in the air. The force that it carries it up in the air, it's within it. It's within the bird itself. Isaac Newton came around and said, no, that's totally wrong. No entity can move itself. It's only a force that's applied. So let's say you're walking. Isaac Newton would say, you're not pushing yourself forward. You're pushing the ground beneath you backwards. And the ground is pushing you forwards. So every action is opposite equal reaction. So when I run, I'm really pushing the ground behind me. It sounds like he's splitting hairs, but he's saying something actually very profound. He's saying you're pushing the earth behind you, and the earth is pushing you forward. There's a reaction there. So what they do to illustrate that to kids is they take like a train track, they elevate it, and they turn on the train. And then you see the train track starting to spin underneath the train. And it's showing you, look, the train is pushing the train tracks back. And the train tracks are pushing the train forward when they're connected to the ground. So when I put you on a treadmill, you're pushing the treadmill behind you. The treadmill's not pushing you forward because it's spinning along with you. But if I put you on the ground is pushing you forward now. So for every action, there's an opposite equal reaction. I'm sure you've heard this. Then Einstein comes along and says, no, that's totally wrong. Well, when it comes to gravity, okay, when subject of gravity, he says, because Isaac Newton says this, look, the force of gravity is in the earth. The earth has this invisible force, this magical woo-woo thing. And that's what his contemporaries said about him. That's what his peers said. He said, oh, you're appealing to magic. What is this gravity thing? Where it's non-corporeal, it's not material, it's not made of a substance. Is this magic? And he was like, yeah, it's this force. You can't feel it, you can't detect it. It's just observable in nature. And for 300 years, everybody believed that. And then Einstein comes along and says, no, you guys are totally wrong. There is no mythical force called gravity. It's a pushing force. So really what he says is, let me get a sheet of paper here. Make it really, really simple. And I'm going to put it in a nutshell here, okay? But
Okay.
he says, look, Einstein says, look, space and time are one. Space is actually a thing out there. It's actually the space between me and you is an actual physical thing. He says the sun is so heavy that it dents it. It makes like a toilet bowl. And the earth is bumping around in that toilet bowl because space is actually curved. It's curved like this. Space is curved because the sun, imagine I put a bowling ball on your bed. Your bed's going to indent.
Right.
That toilet bowl shape, the earth is flowing around that toilet bowl shape. So it's a pushing force, no longer a pulling force.
So the weight of the earth is pushing down on space.
Exactly. It's bending space, literally. Its mass is bending space. Now, Isaac Newton thought light travels in a straight line only. And to prove this, Einstein said, look, light will bend. If I'm right, light will bend. So they observed the sun during an eclipse and they saw that the light bends. Light does not travel in a straight line. This is another belief that was debunked. I mean, how many scientific beliefs are debunked? Countless. Or overturned, because a scientific fact is not a mathematical fact. They're two different things. A scientific fact can never go higher than hypothesis. If somebody understands the philosophy of science, he understands that every single scientific fact is not equivalent to a mathematical fact, 1 + 1 = 2. A scientific fact is always subject to cross-examination and new evidence.